picked that video because I love the biblical emphasis at the end of it, because ultimately what the message of that I got from that was our answer is in that book, isn't it? That's where we're going to find our answer. And that is my approach to this series, that we're going to have graceful marriages and graceful families and graceful relationships. In Isaiah 5, verse 4, God poses a question to Israel. Israel was in a state of rebellion, which is normal for them. They're always in a state of rebellion. They do good, they fail. They do good, they fail. And he poses this question, though. He goes, what more could I have done for my vineyard, Israel, that I have not already done? Good question, huh? What more could I have done for you that I haven't already done? What he was saying in this pre-gospel verse, that he had done everything he could do for his people to assure their prosperity, yet they still look to other sources for their prosperity and safety. So what more could I do for you that I haven't already done? I've provided water from you. I've delivered you from Egypt. I got you out of the tyrant's hands, of the Pharaoh's arms. And anytime you've honored me and I've gone to battle with you, you've won in that battle. I've prospered you as a nation. What more for Israel could I do for you than you haven't already done, that I haven't already done? Now let's fast forward up a few thousand years to the cross. Now we take that verse, Isaiah 5:4, and we put it underneath the dispensation and the administration of the ministry of Jesus Christ on the cross. Now we can pose another question. What more could I do for you, church, that I haven't already done? Could Jesus have done anything more for the human race than dying on the cross? No, because let's go back. We visit this many times. If Jesus looked at, if God the Father, Jesus the pre-incarnate Son, and the Holy Spirit look at the human condition, look at bad marriages, look at disease, and look at broken relationships, and all the stuff that makes this world so enjoyable, life so happy. He looks at this, the squalor of humanity, and they get together in the Trinity, and they come up with a plan. Let's come up with a plan to restore man, to redeem man, and on this side of heaven, until they get back with us in heaven, give them the most maximum life that we could give them. And their plan was the death, the burial, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. That was the plan. God said, that's my plan. I'll send my son. He'll live amongst men. Only perfect man, born of a virgin. He'll die on a cross, shed his blood, descend, and then resurrect on a third day, and ascend into heaven and sit down on the right hand of the Father. That's my plan. Now let me add to that. God speaking. That's the best I can do. All my love is in that plan, all my power is in that plan, and all of my wisdom is in that plan. There is no better plan, there is no more powerful plan, and there's no more loving plan than the death, the burial, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. So I posed this question to myself many years ago as a pastor. When I'm facing sort of life's most daunting challenges, and they seem to get more daunting as the years go by. Is this enough for me? Is his death on the cross, his resurrection, his ascension, can that get me through this? I'm here to tell you that it can. This is my approach to marital issues and marital counseling. The answer has already been given. It's found and must be found in that cross. There is a difference between achieving marital compatibility and marital transformation. We can modify behavior. We can teach people how to be married, have marriage less stressful and more enjoyable. Some wonderful works out there, things I've read, things I've studied, things I've used. 5 Love Languages, great book. Love and Respect, great work, great. I don't have any issues with them at all because I've used them and will use them again. But I just want to be very careful that I'm not teaching two depraved natures to get along better. My little dog, my little Maltese, I think it's a dog. They tell me it's a dog. It doesn't look like a dog. It doesn't act like a dog, but it's a little Maltese, white, fuzzy thing with bad breath. And this dog, he's just, well, he's a dog. But he's no different than any big old Rottweiler. There's still a dog. So I can teach my little dog, whatever that is, to roll over, catch food, bark for a treat. But I'm just changing its behavior. I'm modifying its behavior. I don't want to try to modify our behavior. I want to transform our character. I don't want to teach my wife or my husband new tricks. I want my marriage to be a picture of spiritual transformation, of the Spirit of God working between a man and a woman. Most of these things, the core issues, we can teach people to get along, but the core issues keep mostly untouched. And that's the tragedy. So my approach is to go after the core. What makes us tick? And why? Now let me ask you a question and I'll get into the main bulk of the message. Could you be happy if your spouse never changes? Ooh. I haven't heard any answers, so I'm just waiting until I... You're still thinking. And the answer I'm here to tell you today is yes. You can. And your happiness does not need to be dependent upon somebody else. And number two, neither should it be. Not when we have a God that is sitting on the right hand of the Father. Here's how it all began. Here's the first marital issue Adam and Eve are created. God breathed life into dust. He made you and I. And inside that dust, there are these needs that God gave us. This need of affirmation, this need of acceptance. Nothing wrong with them. God breathed them into our lives. They're God-given needs. The need for security, the need for love, and all these different emotional and physical and psychological needs that God breathed into us. And that was God's design for us as human beings. But here we are, we're walking in the Garden of Eden before the apple incident, and all my love is met by God, and all my acceptance is met in my walk with Him, and all my affirmation and my self-esteem and all these things are just totally fulfilled because I had this walking relationship with God Almighty. And then sin came into the human race through the eating of the tree. And it was like a ceiling was built. That relationship, we're banished out of the Garden of Eden, that relationship between me and God. God still loved us, but the holiness of God said, no, I can no longer have fellowship with you like that. So here's Adam and Eve having this highway of need being met between them and God. But now sin comes into the human race. The needs didn't stop. They still need affirmation. They still need love. They still need acceptance. They still need security and all those things that make us human. But what happened? They weren't getting it vertically anymore, so they sort of went to the horizontal. And Eve said, I'm going to look to men. And saw there's only one of them. All right, I'm going to look to him then. And Eve said, I'm going to look to women. Not only one of them either. There's only a whole bunch to choose from here. Okay, Adam, now you're going to be my need meter, Adam. You're going to give me affirmation. You're going to give me love. You're going to give me acceptance. You're going to give me all those things that I used to get from God. Adam, you're going to give them to me now. Deal. And Eve, everything I used to get from God, love, acceptance, affirmation, all those things, you're going to give them to me too, right? So they launched into what we call modern marriage. The problem was, neither one of them could do it. Neither one of them was capable of being everything one to another. Yet I stand here today, my friends, to say that's still the number one problem in marriage. We're still looking horizontally to get something met that only a vertical relationship can meet. We're still looking to another person. In this case, we're talking about marriages. It doesn't have to always be a marriage, but we're looking into marriage. This woman or this man needs to meet these needs of mine, or I am not going to be happy. Genesis chapter 3, verse 16. This King James Bible. I'm going to read this to you in the New Living Translation. I don't have it. I'm putting the King James on the screen, but I'm going to read it to you in the New Living Translation. Then he said to the woman, I will sharpen the pain of your pregnancy. This is after the fall. And in pain you will give birth. And watch what it says in New Living. It reads differently in the King James. And you will desire to control your husband, but he'll have rule over you. Oh, it's awful. The word desire there is a word that means to long for, to deeply desire, to stretch after. Picture of an animal stalking its prey. It's funny. Never mind. I won't go there. Genesis chapter 4, King James. I'll read it in the New Living just to show you how this word is used. You will be accepted if you do what's right, talking to Cain after the Abel incident. But if you refuse to do what is right, then watch out. Sin is crouching at the door, eager to control you. Desire means control. And you must subdue it and be its master. So this is the beginning of the curse on the marriage. Women's desire came off God and was placed on her husband, a role that he could never fulfill. And no matter how hard he tries to make her happy, and watch me now, no matter how much she tries to make him make her happy, it won't work. The majority of Christian counseling is trying to make the curse less curseful. It's like painting an old rusty car with some white paint and expecting it to look new. Let's take this relationship and we'll teach them how to get along. Well, that will work to a point until one of them doesn't get along. Then what do? Or somebody changes. I mentioned a bunch of different resources, and those are good resources, and I use them. But what I'm basically doing is saying, you take this fallen nature, and you take this fallen nature over here, and all those fallen needs, and all these fallen needs, and we're going to teach you guys how to coexist with one another so you're happy. But that is not spiritual transformation. That's not an entire renovation of the human soul and the human spirit by the Holy Spirit. That's not being conformed to His image. Being renewed in the spirit of our minds. We're talking about something far more radical than just getting along. We need to spiritually detoxify ourselves from what we've called curse-filled thinking. In fact, I didn't call it that. Jeff Van Vonderen called that in his wonderful book that I use a lot. So I have 5 characteristics. We'll continue this with 3 roads of a curse-filled marriage on Wednesday night. But the first characteristic of a curse-filled marriage is manipulation. Now, some of you probably never heard that term and don't know what that means. Manipulation, if my sense of value comes from the behavior of another, listen to what I'm saying. If my sense of value comes from a behavior of another, I'll always be sure to keep the pressure on them, that other person, so I can feel better about myself. My value comes from you, so I'm going to make sure, do whatever it takes to manipulate you so you'll keep giving me my value. Here's the problem. It's impossible for me to establish or maintain another self-esteem without their permission. I can't make anyone anything. I can't make somebody more spiritual. I can't make somebody more loving. I can't make somebody more kind. I can't make somebody more attentive. And by me trying to make them that way, I'm probably hindering the very process of them becoming that way. By me maybe nagging them, manipulating them, doing a gift reward system in them, whatever it is. however we want to choose to manipulate. I'm probably stopping the process of what I'm actually trying to achieve. My concern needs to be with my relationship with God, not somebody else's relationship with God. Ladies, you can't make your husband be spiritual. He needs to find Jesus himself. He needs to find the Holy Spirit himself. You can't manipulate him into a corner because you want a spiritual, godly husband. That doesn't work. God needs to do that work in him. You can't do that for him. In fact, I'll eventually say you will hinder the work that God's trying to do in him. I had a conversation with somebody a few months ago and he was telling me about his friend who was an elderly man that goes to a particular church up in another state. And he's very active in the church. He's a deacon and he's an usher and he works in the service and stuff. And so this fellow asked him, he said, hey, so you really like this church, huh? He was new there. You really like the church, what it's doing? And he looked at him and said, no, I don't believe any of this stuff. He goes, it makes my wife happy. That's why I go here. She thinks it's great. She goes to church with her husband. And so she just walks in all proud, but I don't even believe. Whoa. But she was happy. So my prayer isn't that one becomes more spiritual. My prayer is that God will meet them right where they're at. You can nag, you can corner, you can debate, you can do whatever it does. You can have a reward system. You can act this way, so they'll act this way towards you. You can do the icy cool. You know what the icy cool is. If you don't know Christ, you just go right to cold. But because Christians, we do like more of a cool. And we just sort of stand off and everything okay, honey? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fine. No, really, something bothering you? No, I'm fine. No, really, tell me something. No, I'm fine. Just leave me alone. Just like that. Nothing's bothering you. No. And so, a half hour later, 45 minutes, 2 weeks later, whatever it is, the man's still pursuing this. Really, tell me what's wrong. You really want to know what's wrong? Well, honey, tell them right off the bat. Don't drag this out over 2 weeks. Just tell them just what's wrong. Because chances are you're expecting him to know that, but I'm guaranteeing you he don't. Because he's a man. And there's certain things we just don't know, which is most things. And if you're expecting us to be sensitive, we're going to wait a long, long time. But if you're expecting us to know what you want and what you need, you're going to be waiting a long, long time. Buy a birthday cake, kind of just going to come and go. It ain't going to happen because we're men. We're clueless. So what I would do, I would just communicate. Now, guys, I'm not off the hook yet. So I would communicate, say, look, this is what I would like. It's okay to try to meet each other's needs. It's okay to be to one another what you'd like to be to one another. But just be direct about it. If you're trying to backdoor it, it's not going to happen. You're trying to manipulate somebody into saying something, doing something, getting a compliment, you're probably going about it the wrong way. Icy cool doesn't work. It just deteriorates the relationship. And it's a rerun. Not that anyone even knows what I'm talking about. The icy cool. Then we have the historical. This is a bad one. Curse-filled relationships are unforgiving. One's failures or shortcomings are never seen through redemption's eyes. Never are seen through redemption's eyes. Sometimes failures from decades past are finding their way into our present as soon as the conflict meter rises up a little bit. It's called going historical. Let's say there's infidelity, God forbid, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. Let me just say about this. It takes a while to heal from that. That doesn't heal in a month. That doesn't heal in a few weeks. That doesn't heal in 2 or 3 months. That takes a while. It takes a while for trust to build its roots down in the soil again. And if I'm the guilty party in infidelity, you may have to speak words of assurance and words of security and words of love for months until you help your spouse overcome their insecurities fears, and so they can turn off those tapes going around in their minds. So understand that. But there's also a point of forgiveness. You can say, I forgive them, I just won't forget. It needs to be a point of forgetfulness too. Because what happens then is things will go on 1 year, 2 years, 3 years later, and there'll be a tension in the relationship, and you'll just reach back into that little bag of arsenal back there and pull out something historical. Remember this? Case closed, because I have the trump card. I have you guilty of something, really guilty. And so we use that. Forgiveness means that we really forgive. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 31 and 32 says, get rid of all bitterness, rage, anger, harsh words, and slander, as well as all types of evil behavior. Instead, be kind one to another. This is talking about regular relationships, but take this into your marriage. Instead, be kind to each other, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, just as God through Christ has forgiven you. Being historical inflicts subtle damage in our marriage, and we gain this sort of sick satisfaction of making our spouse feel remorse or guilty for when they let us down. This is a cancer in your marriage, my friends. And it won't be slow growing. It'll happen quickly. When I did my dear friend's memorial service up north a few months ago, they were married 63 years. And when I renewed their vows for them just a few months before the service, one of the things I said in their renewal of 63 years, he goes, you have forgiven each other countless times. How many times do you forgive one another in 63 years? Or maybe a year. A constant reiteration of the past will increase the chance that the past will repeat itself. If I'm bringing up something, whatever that something is, it's a high likelihood that I'm just creating the opportunity for it to happen again. Next is criticism. Curse-filled relationships. A spoken or written opinion or judgment of what is wrong or bad about somebody or something. That's the actual definition for criticism. Its word was used in the 1800s, but was never used in a personal sense. It was never meant to be in a personal sense. It was used for those commenting on plays, performances, and other forms of the arts. Some are masters at constructive criticism. But chances are, most of the time, the people already know where they fail. Somebody ever points out my failures, I say, you have such an incomplete list. My goodness, you should be smarter than that. That's all you got on me? Boy, I'm getting good. And I'm so much worse than that. I'm way worse than what you could ever imagine. Even though I may not make it out here, if you ever traveled through my brain, you would say, oh, my land, what happened? That's the guy I listen to on Sunday. So it was never used in a personal sense. So it's placing myself over another in critique. Most often the very thing we need from them is to feel complete. Criticism, never say never. 2 words, never say never. You never do this. The other word is always. You always do this. It's like two other opposite of the pole, but that's a typical thing. You never do this. You always do that. And what you're saying is these people, now maybe that person you just said that to, your husband, your wife, maybe they're really trying to do that. And you've just robbed them of even wanting to try. Maybe they're trying to be more sensitive. Maybe they're trying to be more loving. Maybe they're trying to be more affectionate. Maybe they're trying to be more truthful and honest and transparent. Whatever it is that you want them to try to be. And all of a sudden you never do that. You always do that. Curse-filled relationship. Sort of fits right with the historical sense too. So we ask ourselves our question, does this ever work? Does negative criticism ever work? Does constructive criticism ever work? Sometimes, maybe, but not often. When I was a kid, I got a B. And I was very happy because I wasn't that good of a student. I got a B. My dad said, you could have got an A. So the next semester, I got a C. That's how well it worked on me. That's how well him pointing out my faults and my failures and my shortcomings, that's how well it worked on me. I said, all right, I won't try then. If he said, that's great, you got a B, I probably would have tried to get an A. I was teaching my son how to ride a bike. I'll never forget him. He fell and took out a good part of his skin from here to here. It was great. He loved it. And there was blood everywhere. And I said, that was amazing. I've never seen anyone do 5 pedals the first time in their whole life. But yeah, well, watch this. I'm doing 6. And then next thing I know, he's doing 6 and 7 and 8. He's riding his bike. It's difference between criticism and edification, isn't it? Criticism involves guilt. It involves fear. It involves debt. All anti-grace qualities, all products of the curse. Here's a graceful relationship. Here's a graceful statement, way of responding. Ephesians 4, verse 15. But speaking the truth in love may grow up into him in all things, which is the head, Christ. And how about this one? In Ephesians chapter 4, let no corrupt communication, we used to teach this to our kids in school. Let no corrupt, useless, worthless, sakos is the Greek word, communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace to the hearers. The word edifying there in Ephesians 4:29 is a really wonderful Greek word. It means to construct an edifice, to build something inside of them. So when I speak grace to somebody, I'm actually building something inside of them. I'm constructing something in their soul. I'm encouraging them, giving them capacity potentially, maybe faith. I've had people come up to me through the years, and them not knowing this, and speak things to me that deeply encouraged and increased my faith. It was a simple statement. There was a simple confidence. But it was a place where I had areas of doubt maybe at that point in my life, and they spoke into my life. They spoke an edifying word in my life, and it built my faith up. A lot more than the oh-no prophets. People who want to freak you out with everything that happens. Number 4, I made this one up. Emotional nuclear reaction. Pretty good, huh? Yeah. People living in the curse don't know how to respond in grace. All they know how to respond in the curse. So they react to their wound, they react to their need, they react to their unmet desire, or maybe their frustration. And so we have this emotional nuclear reaction. Or maybe it's an insecurity or a fear. And if I do something to spur on my husband's or my wife's insecurity or my fear, then mushroom cloud. So what happens with that? The communication breaks down. There's no discussion then. Because with the husband or the wife, depending who's going to react, they say, well, I'm not going to say anything now because I don't have the ability or the strength to hack through your reaction and hack through the negativity or the fear or the insecurities. I'll deal with this myself, but we won't communicate it. In a curse-filled relationship, the byword is control. And what emotions will do is they'll control people. We care about the other in light of, as well as they maybe meet my needs, and even acts of kindness can come with a price tag. We're reminded of their goodness, and sometimes I put in a debt to them. Now, emotional reaction can be volatile or even tears, but they'll never bear fruit. They'll either cause their own reaction. One nuke will cause another nuke. Or the other one shuts down. Or the other one learns how to lie so they don't have to deal with the truth right at that moment anyway. Or they'll tell you whatever you want to hear so you just will stop crying or reacting or responding or whatever the emotion is. curse-filled response. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 5, talking about love in the Message Bible, doesn't force itself on others, isn't always me first. I like that. Doesn't fly off the handle, doesn't keep score of the sins of others. Emotional nuclear reaction. Last one, my friends, it's called the big I. I like this one. The Greek word for I is ego. You've heard of ego. That guy has a big ego. Well, he means you have a big I. That's the I is ego in the Greeks. That's where we get it from. And the big I, ego, is the author of the curse-filled relationship. This is the antithesis of a Christian relationship. I'm in this relationship to get something. And even if I do give something, I give something with the understanding that you will give me something in return. Manipulation. I will give to get. I'll lay down my life, I'll serve, I'll be affectionate, but I want this back. So it's really not about you, it's really not about what I'm doing for you, it's really about how I'm serving you, it's what you're going to give me back. It's what I'm getting, not what I'm giving. I'm just giving to get. You follow me? It's very subtle, but it's very real, and probably is more of the normal than the exception in our marriages. I don't give to give, I give to get. I will treat you this way if you treat me that way. I'll behave this way if you behave that way. I'll be loving to you if you're loving back. I'll give all these, I don't mind giving as long as I'm getting. But here's the trick. What if you're giving and you're not getting? What do you do with that? You can cash it in. You can be frustrated. You can be all these different things. But can you be happy? Is Jesus enough? If that person you're not connected to never really shifts into who you would not her or him to be? Please don't think I'm advocating a marriage that isn't enjoyable. We should want to meet each other's needs. Larry Crabb's book on that, I think, is a wonderful book. We should have a ministry to our husband or a ministry to our wives, whatever that means. The Marriage Builder is the name of the book. I want to minister to my wife, so I want to be what she wants me to be. I want to minister to her, however it is that I want to bless her. But here's the difference. I don't care if she blesses me back. Talking to a couple that had been married for 50 years, somebody asked them, true story, somebody asked them their secret. Well, let me back up a little bit. Somebody did a survey of couples that lived together prior to marriage. They said, why are you living with this person? Why do you like that person? And the statement was, I like what this person does for me. This person is nice to me, this person, whatever it is. They fill in the blank, but I like what this relationship does for me. I'm not lonely. They say nice things to me. They help me pay the bills. Whatever it is. It could be all the above. Then they asked somebody who'd been married 50 years, and the response was, I just like doing things for them. See the difference? One was receiving and one was giving. Which one is gracious and which one is curseful? The curse is the takers. Grace is the givers. I didn't have this in my notes, but I shared it at the first service, so I want to share a little personal testimony. If you had asked me about my 30 years of walking with God, I could give you about 5 instances where I've called them Waterloos or covenant times when God changed the course of my life and taught me things about myself that I needed to learn about myself in this 30 years. And one of those moments was about just 18 years ago, I guess. My little Hannah Grace was about 2 to 3 years old. I forget what it was. My wife, who used to be, before we had Hannah, was very active in ministry with me. We'd go and run the Christian school. She'd go in with me. We'd be in the office all day. We'd hanging out together. And it was really great. It was wonderful. Then she got pregnant. It happens. And when you're married, and she got pregnant, and she had a baby, and she had a wonderful delivery, but my wife had certain health issues. She has chronic anemia, and plus you have a regular postpartum thing after that. So between her chronic anemia, which creates, depending how bad the anemia is, and hers was very, very bad, it causes migraine headaches and causes depression. So she had a really rough time coming back from delivering, giving birth to my daughter. So she's staying home, taking the houses clean, everyone's taking care of and stuff, but I'm coming home. I'm going to take my little briefcase, going to work, coming home, coming back to the office, and so how was your day? Good. What happened today? Nothing. 8 hours, 2 words. I figured, nothing. Good? Nothing. I defined my whole day. What else would she want from me? I told her how my day, nothing happened, everything was good. I think, did she want me to really talk about it? That wasn't right, was it? That she'd expect me to actually communicate? Details. What's wrong with good and okay? I mean, they were good for me. They settled my heart. I figured I answered the question. It was good. Oh, nothing. That never happened to you guys, I understand. I mean, our guys here, they answer in full sentences. I do understand that. Ugh. That's a full sentence with a period after it. Because as long as it's a period, it's a sentence, right? And so, so but then the Spirit of God gripped me. He says, well, I'd like a little bit more information. Because here she is. She's at home all day talking to a 2 or 3 year old, and I come home and I'm not communicating. And then I get this little thought. She wanted me to be a little bit more open and tell her what happened today and stuff like that. Wives like that stuff. I don't know. But anyway, and I said, I remember talking to God in my sight. I go, geez, you know what? I just lived today. Do I have to live it again? And I was a little bit self-righteous. And then that's one of the moments when the Spirit of God checked me, tapped me on the shoulder, and said, Tim, if you'll forget about yourself, and I'm not just talking about my marriage, but this is where it applied at the moment. If you'll forget about yourself, you'll forget about your needs, what you want, what you think you're supposed to have, and your desires. If you'll just forget about yourself and just lay your life down for your wife and really for others, then I will be everything you ever need me to be to you. It was clear as a whistle. And I sat there for a moment, and this feels like a moment, but when you have these moments with God, they're really milliseconds. Because I thought, do I really want to do that? That means I live every day by faith. Faith is going to be scary. And that I actually made the decision. It wasn't something that I made a decision. I said in my own spirit to the Lord, I said, okay. And from that point forward, my friends, that has been in my marriage, and that has been in my ministry, and that has been in my human relationships. If I'll forget about myself and just give, not because of what I'm getting back, because I may not get anything back. Now, I have failed in that on a regular basis, let's say a daily basis. But the Spirit of God is always very good about tapping me on my spiritual shoulder and saying, Tim, remember, it's not about you. You just give, and I'll be everything you ever need me to be. You don't have emotional needs, spiritual needs. I'll meet every need you have on the inside. Just give. And what if they don't give back? That's the whole point. Because we didn't give anything back to Jesus Christ. He just gave it all. And He's our example. And this is the biggest difference between a graceful and a curseful marriage, is this big I. As I wrap my arms around the gospel of Jesus Christ and understand it and meditate on it and think about it, this big I just shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. Ego begins to go away. The gospel of God's grace is the most humbling thing in the universe. Everything we have, my friends, is something that we've received. Our giving of ourselves or whatever, we can only give because we've been given to by Jesus Christ. God has a better path. I'm into getting along, marital communication, Knowing each other's needs, his needs, her needs, all those wonderful books. They're all good. Learn what your husband or your wife needs and do your best to be that person to them. Love them unconditionally. Do your best to be the best you can be to them. But do it without a price tag. Just do it because it's been done for you through Jesus Christ. Don't worry about getting anything back. Just give and look to him to meet you there. Dear Jesus, thank you.